Hi, Brent.
Good afternoon, Emma. How are you?
Good. Thanks a lot for being with us today.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you. I can see here that we already have 8 people who are with us. Maybe we'll just give it some time.
Perfect.
Hi.
Let's give it a minute or two. Hello, everybody.
Hi, Quentin.
Maybe you guys can put your comments in the chat. I'm curious to know where you are in the world. Maybe just Quentin, just dump which city you're in.
So
I'm in Johannesburg.
Yeah, I've heard that everybody is starting now the online events by saying, "Where are you from?" Yeah. It's just because everything is virtual and it's online, right? So now people are curious that you can just attend basically any event or any virtual discussion anywhere around the world, and then everybody is curious where they're
everyone is from.
Yeah, 100%. Exactly. Hi, Jackie.
Dion's in the Fair Cape. It's interesting because I listen to a lot of podcasts, and that's generally the way the guys go. So where does this pod find you? And they talk about where you are.
Yes.
Hello to Lebanon. We'll give it another minute or two, and then we'll probably start, I think.
Yes. Good. Let's just get started and talk a little bit about you, because I think everybody is excited to learn about you, and you've got an interesting story.
I have a very interesting story. I've had multiple what's been looking for reincarnations of careers over the years. So started with architecture, and then landed up driving an ambulance in the UK, and then came back and started a food manufacturing business in 94, 95. And I was in that business for 17 years. Then I did a small stint in the inner city redevelopment of a large building for student residents. There was a big conversion, 14 stories. And then October 8 years ago, started coaching full-time, and that's what I've been doing full-time now. That's my day job. And predominantly service-based industries, so advertising agencies, consultancies, lawyers, anyone that sells time fundamentally is sort of in my firm grasp. And I've been doing that for many years, and that's kind of how I stumbled into this freelance discussion. And
it's interesting to know the name Spilly with the 3 L's.
So my surname is Spilkin, and I was called from high school. I was called, "Hey Spilly, just Spilly." And then in about 2008, I got onto Twitter. And it was the first time I'd really been on social media. I mean, I sort of had a Facebook page, but didn't really care about it. And I tried to get Spilly with 2 L's because that sort of made sense for me. And Spilly with 2 L's was taken by someone that had committed suicide, funny enough, true story.
Wow.
And so I just took 3 L's, not knowing. And 3 L's are stuck. I've had a lot of people actually call me. I've got a client in Sydney, and she calls me. She goes, how are you 3 L's? She doesn't even call me Brent or Spilly anymore. And then I've used the 3 L's in some of my public speaking pieces. I talk about like learn, leverage, and love, or listen, love, or less is more, and all the L's, like, and depending on who I'm speaking to and how I want to tailor the topic.
Yeah, it's exciting because I actually the first time we met, I was like, I did that mistake when we were communicating online, and then you told me it's with the 3 L's.
Yes, people get it wrong all the time.
Yeah. I think everybody is excited to hear about your book and WTF, what the freelance.
Okay.
And what actually inspired you to write the book?
So I'll tell you, so I came out of a very heavy traditional business. I had 400 staff and lots of vehicles, and we produced physical, tangible product, and we distributed it. And the way that business ran was, we owned all the staff. Everyone worked for us.
Yeah.
And when I came out of that business and started getting involved in the service-based industry, especially the creative and the advertising and the media and the tech space, suddenly there was this thing called freelancing, and everyone was using freelancers. And I'd never seen this. Like, I'd never been exposed to it for all my life. And this was in 2012. So it had started and in this country hadn't really exploded yet, but it was obviously a demand for freelancers and people were going freelance. And firstly, so I was fascinated by this flexible, agile workforce. I loved the fact that people were building businesses without having permanent staff, but using people as and when required, very sort of, like expand the contract as required. And I loved the model from a business perspective. I loved the model. And but what subsequently happened is that a lot of my clients, predominantly at that point, advertising agencies and creative agencies, had a lot of frustration using freelancers. Sorry, I'm getting terrible sound again. And so what happened was that there was a lot of frustration around using freelancers in their business, and I couldn't understand why. I was like, people are supplying you, they're doing good work. And what subsequently became a problem was that the freelancers knew how to deliver the skill they had. So if they were designers, they could deliver design. If they were web developers, they could develop. But the way which they ran their little one-man business was very poor. So they didn't act like a business. And so I went and actually interviewed. I was just going to produce a single piece of content. There was no real deeper intention, but I ended up interviewing 64 business owners. And I just asked them, what do you like? What are your frustrations? What do you wish they could do better, worse, more of? And the overriding message was, I wish they would treat us like a client, not a hobby. And I wish they would run their business more professionally. Like I wish they could run their business. And I realized that the tertiary education system in this country, for sure, pumps people out with good skills, but not the skills to sell those skills. They don't tell them how to run, you become a lawyer. They don't tell you how to run a legal practice, or you become an HR consultant. They don't tell you how to go market and sell and do your pricing or all the other traditional business pieces. So there was an interest to me. And so I went down a very deep rabbit hole. It took me about 2 years to write the book in parallel to running my life, my day job. And then self-published the book, and quite quickly realized that I had written quite an extensive textbook. It isn't the book that you casually put your feet up on a Sunday afternoon and read. It's a book that you've got to study with a pen and paper and take notes and apply, templates and constructs and actually use the book proactively in your business. And what subsequently happened was that I stumbled into a business here called Vega, which is sort of a design branding kind of tertiary education business. They've got offices in Joburg, Cape Town, Durban, and I think it's Pretoria. And Pretoria are the four campuses. And I was like, well, no one's buying the book because everyone who's buying the book's going, I can't read this book. It's a textbook. It's too heavy.
Yeah. And it was too early. I mean, you've done that.
Well, the timing, I think the timing was interesting. I think it was a little bit too early. And also, I think that unfortunately, freelancers tend to believe that they're really good at running their business. And that's a bit of a misconception, I believe. Not everybody is. So the book was turned into a course, and it was run for, it was a 12-week, 36-hour course run through Vega. And the course was then taken, and it was, again, quite a substantial course for someone that has no business experience. And then what I tend to find is that people wouldn't commit to 12 weeks. It was too much of a commitment for a freelancer, especially considering if they're not working, they're not making money. So it was, again, too big and heavy. So I then took that course and then diluted it down to a one-day masterclass. I took the key elements and the key pieces and broke it down into a one-day. And then have lectured that quite a few times in the last couple of years through different organizations, to the public, to some corporates, guys that are retrenching people. We do part of the coursework to them. So it's lived in different aspects, but it's all the content from the book at a much lighter level, basically, because you're not getting through all 36 hours of content. So that's how the course developed.
So Brent, what you're saying is that's basically like the blueprint for anybody who wants to start a freelance business and actually treat it as a freelance business and get the most out of it. But It's interesting that you said that, because we also find we get a lot of feedback from clients who are reluctant to actually work with freelancers, thinking that they are not committed to deliver quality work or to deliver on time. It's because of that notion of a side hustle. And businesses still think that if you are freelancing, this means it's like a hobby for you. Whereas today things have changed. People treat freelancing as a business. It's just that it has the beauty of being able to work on multiple projects for different clients at the same time. And I always say that a freelancer is an entrepreneur. And actually, you mentioned that the last time that we chatted as well together. And they are building their own reputation. So it is in their own interest to deliver great quality work. But there's some of the stuff and that I would like to talk about is, I mean, as a freelancer and more in the context of for us as HR people, right? Yes. What would make you unique? Like, how would you present yourself in a unique way? Because personal branding is really important, but how would you present yourself in a unique way?
So the first thing is you got to determine, which market you're going after. So are you going after small business, mid business, corporate, local, global? Because the way you present yourself, obviously, who you kind of target long term. Yeah. And I'm getting terrible feedback, Emma. And so I think that one of the big things is that personal branding is always important from a credibility perspective. I believe in there's that internet rule, the 1-9-90, where 1% produce content, 9% disseminate content, and 90% consume. And you've got to be the 1%. So you've always got to be producing content and being relevant to the audience. And the next thing for me is that from a differentiator is that if you're in a highly competitive space, what I would suggest is to try and niche your service by and by sort of recipient. So an example, it's a double niche. So if you're doing HR, that's a very broad thing, right? Are you the interview expert within the HR field, or are you the onboarding expert, or are you the KPI expert? Like, which piece do you want to be the expert on? Not broad. And then secondly, do you want to be the KPI expert for all businesses or for the pharmaceutical industry? So try and figure out that you want to be known as an expert for a particular industry versus a generic expert. Because what tends to happen is that you become another Me Too business. Oh, you're an HR person? Yes, me too. And that's not a place you want to be. So I always try to figure out, find something that you can get really deep in terms of expertise within each field you're in. So within the HR space, for example, and then try and find a segment of the market that has your requirement, that all your content, all your expertise, all the brands on your website speak to a particular industry. So you really are the expert within a space, and make sure that space is big enough to sustain your lifestyle.
Yeah, I like this one. So you can get enough work out of it, right? But that's exactly within HR. It's really broad, exactly as you said, and being specialized in one area and specifically helping out clients that are in a certain industry or with a specific pain point can differentiate the person. But how to, and this is where a lot of the freelancers struggle through online platforms like OneCircle, and a lot of the people who are here today are consultants on the OneCircle platform. But if they want to go on their own and they want to find clients, new clients, they want to connect with all the clients, how can they do that? Like, what is your recommendation?
So I think that from a go-to-market strategy, it does vary depending on. So it firstly depends on who you are, right? So the example being is that, are you comfortable with cold calling? As an example. Now, when I ask people that question, the majority of people go, no, I don't want to cold call. So I'm going, cool. And cold calling is not for you. Do you want to do warm emailing? And then it's a volume business. Are you going to send lots of emails out? And sometimes people are going, it doesn't work for them. Okay, I'm great. So do you want to do webinars? Do you want to do public relations? Do you want to do like publicity? Do you want to do public speaking? Do you want to be a content factory? Do you want to start putting out lots of articles that people can start adopting? Do you want to write the book? Okay, become the expert. That's the lead generation magnet. So you go like, well, I'm going to talk about the book and get radio interviews. So the idea is that depending on who you are and what you're comfortable with determines which channel you're going to approach to get new clients. Now, I'll give you a very simple strategic framework for most service-based industries and much smaller businesses. So that works beautifully for the freelance industry. It's called the 5 1s, Emma. And the 5 1s are very simple. You want to pick one kind of client. So I'm talking about that client avatar, whether it's the pharmaceutical business or the advertising agency, which kind of client. And you can determine that by geography, by size of client, by complexity, by entry point, i.e. do you speak to the owner or the HR manager? Like you can determine what does your perfect client look like for the next 6 to 12 months. So the first thing is determine who the client you want to go after is. The second one is what is your one product, your primary product or your signature service that you want to offer the perfect client that solves a perfect client's problem? So are we going after pharmaceutical and do they need KPI measurement? I'm using a really random example, right? But one product, not HR for everybody. It's KPIs or onboarding for the pharmaceutical industry. Then you want to pick one marketing channel. So marketing channel is webinar or social media or getting PR exposure or public speaking or e-commerce purchase, or like there's all different ways of figuring out, you know, what is the one place that you want to market it. And when I say social media, I'm not saying all the social media. I'm going pick LinkedIn. Just do one. Become the expert at one so you understand how to use that platform effectively to find the people that are going to buy your one product, right? So one client, one solution, one marketing channel, one conversion method. The conversion method is how do you take someone who's interested in what you're selling or saying to become a paying client? So it could be something like this, which is a webinar to a sales meeting. It could be from a download the ebook onto an email chain to a meeting. It could be buy now, swipe your credit card on my website. So like, how do you get the guys to buy from you one way? Pick one way and master that way. You won't be the expert immediately, but figure out what works and do that. So I'm going back here. One client, one product, one marketing channel, one conversion method, 1 year. You do that for 1 year consistently. Don't do anything else. You start that strategy, measure the success. You may need to align that to decide, well, pharmacy is not right. Let's make it advertising. But we're still doing KPR. We're still doing LinkedIn. We're still doing webinar to sales meeting. Changing. So you can iteratively change the strategy, but pick one, try it, and become an expert at it. And that generally helps you understand the way in which to think about how to go get new clients. And as I said, the marketing channel could be cold calling or emailing as well. Depends what works for you.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because it speaks to being the expert and the specialist in what you are doing. And
Yes.
and I guess as well, once you get success stories with the clients that are within this particular industry, then
Yes.
you will gain the
Referrals.
reputation. Yes, exactly.
Sure.
You'll gain the reputation that you are the expert in pharmaceuticals, onboarding, etc., etc., etc. So I love that.
It helps with with your marketing content as well. In that example, which is probably not the best example, right? Is that if I landed on Emma's website and you were that person, it should say on the landing page, are you a pharmaceutical company looking for better KPIs? Like it should be that clear, which means that anyone else gets your website goes, oh, I'm not a pharmaceutical person. You're wrong. And that's okay. You want to find that niche that knows that you are absolutely the expert for them. And start with that as a departure point.
Yes. So we started doing that as well to help our consultants to package their solutions in order to put it on the One Circle marketplace. Right. And actually one of the discussions that we had with one of our consultants is that she's really good at dealing with startups and startups that are in growth mode in order to set them up for success from a people perspective. Right. But she always felt that when she says startups, as if she's pushing away everybody else. But then this is where we helped her to refocus, because if this is your strength and this is your area of expertise, then you've got access to all of the startups that are worldwide, that are with that particular turnover and that growth mode, etc. And then it helps as well with the focus, because then the quality of the outputs that the freelancer puts out there is much more focused, and it helps them to churn output quicker. So one of the challenges is actually the numbers, right? And especially with HR people in general, right?
Yes.
So we're not finance people. And when somebody tells us, you want to run your business as if it is a business, even if you're freelancing, it is. That's a business by itself. So how, what is your advice in order, to get your numbers right, whether we're talking about revenue, tax, profit, target, budget?
You break it into I think you break it into sort of three major components, right? There is the absolute finance, which is what the government and the receiver, the taxman, and your accountant require. So the absolute minimum in terms of the requirement that needs to be done in your business from a tax and accounting perspective. There's the measurement and management of your own business, which is, are you measuring profitability per client, per project, which isn't someone externally needs to see, but you need to understand from a bookkeeping perspective, where are you making money? What are your costs? And how profitable are you? And then the third piece, and I'm gonna wrap this all up for you now, but the third piece for me, which is it's the first question I always get asked, is pricing. How do I do my pricing? How do I set my pricing? It's always the problem. And learning pricing is something that in terms of the course, there's a huge piece around understanding the different kinds of pricing, the different ways that you can build pricing, increase prices, the way you would discount on prices. So the whole pricing piece is there. But let's just go back to the beginning of your question. The first thing you're going to do is that no one expects you to be an accountant or a bookkeeper. Okay, that is not your job. But you absolutely need to know that when you outsource, and my advice is always outsource, right? Like quite quickly, find yourself a bookkeeping service or an accounting service to help you run your finances correctly, okay? And weirdly enough, interview this person correctly. Go find a couple of people to test, because you basically marry your accountant. In most businesses, you're with your accountant for a very long time. And you want to be, because they need to understand you and understand your business and adapt to your requirements and your needs in the business. So take some time to find the right accountant or bookkeeping service firstly. But you need to upskill enough to know whether this bookkeeper or accountant externally is actually doing a good job for you. And if you're in the HR space, because you don't carry stock or a lot of assets in your business, the single most important report is the profit and loss, the P&L, or the income statement. And that is fundamentally made up of how much are you invoicing, what are the cost of sales, what are your overheads every month, and how much profit or loss did you make? Excuse me. And you need to know how to read your P&L correctly on a month-to-month basis to know whether you're making money, and how much you're making, or losing and how much you're losing. And are you getting better? Like, is there improvement? Because everything you do in your business is going to affect your finances to some degree. So ultimately, it's one of the best measures of are you doing a great job or not? Are you improving or not? And have you applied a strategy, and is the strategy paying off or not? It comes out in the numbers. So it is your job to figure out, the very basics of bookkeeping on a month-to-month basis. And then internally figure out, well, what else are you measuring? So there are certain ratios that people who sell time, I'm not saying you're billing in time, but you're producing work in time, need to be aware of. So the first thing is that whatever you want your salary to be, so let's just say you want to earn $10,000 or whatever the number, $10,000 a month as an example. That's what your ambition is to earn a month. Then understand that realistically, you've only got about 130 to 140 hours a month, which you can bill, which is about 6 hours of productive time a day. The rest of the hours is you doing your marketing, it's you dealing with your taxes and your accounting and your admin in your business, which you're not able to bill for, okay? So the first thing is take what you wish your salary to be, divide that by 130 or 140 hours, which is working at capacity, and that will give you the hourly rate that you need to achieve in order to make the salary you want. And if you're not charging your clients at least that rate, you're never going to make the kind of money you expect to make. So understanding that ratio is really important. The next ratio, which I think is really important, is called the 1-to-3, which is generally your salary. Let's use the $10,000 as an example. If $10,000 is the salary you want in your business, then it's a ratio of 3. You should be timesing that times 3 in terms of what your revenue should look like. So in order for you to make $10,000 consistently per month, you should be billing $30,000. And the reason why you do that is as follows. The first thing is you're only going to be billing probably 10 months a year. Okay, you're not going to be billing 12 months a year. So you've got to be billing a lot more to cover the quiet periods, the holidays, the breaks, the school holidays, whatever that is in your life, number one. So you need to be adding a bit of fat. You need to be spending money on things like your computer and your computer upgrade every couple of years, all the software, maybe some office space, paying a marketing agency to produce content for you, like whatever the other peripheral costs are in your business, coffees, entertainment allowances, all of those things. That sits in the second third. So $10,000, your salary. The next $10,000 is all the costs in your business. And the third $10,000 is your profit before tax. Okay?
Yes.
Profit before tax. And if you can get that ratio right, so how much do you want to earn? Divide that by 130, gives you an hourly rate. Make sure that you're recouping your hourly rate, and then try and bill 3 times that. And if you can get that right, you'll find that you'll make more than enough money every single month, and you will be able to live on a 9 or 10 month billing model and sustain yourself, plus make enough money to save, right? Because the $10,000 is there's no pension, there's no provident, there's no medical aid, there's none of those things built into your employment. Therefore, you've got to provide for that. So my suggestion is then make sure you're billing way more and saving a bit of money as well, obviously for the rainy days.
Wow, I love that. That's a simple model to apply, right?
Yeah.
But so what you're saying is that's a different way to get around how much am I pricing my services.
Sure. Potentially,
yes. So if I'm, as a consultant, if I am selling time, that's basically a way for me to figure out how much am I charging per hour as my charge out rate.
That's correct.
Yes.
And so going back to the question, right? The first question was around, I said you 3 parts. It was the bookkeeping, internal management, which is what we're talking about now. And the other thing as well, which I find as a fascinating report, is that most people probably in our position have multiple clients, as you said. We aren't, and you shouldn't be reliant on one client because that's very dangerous, right? But multiple clients. One of the things that I try and do every month, which I run a spreadsheet for, is I take the total billing for the month and I divide it by number of clients, and it gives me an average client price per month. Okay. Yes. And my target is to increase my average price per month per client, what that does is it sets an average. And that also then says to me that going forward, any new company coming into my business, if they're not paying more than that average, I don't want them, because I want clients that are going to pay more than the average. So I keep pushing the average price up, and that's another way to measure growth in your business.
Yeah, I like that. So what would you do when a freelancer is struggling to close clients or to get clients, right? And they know that their hourly rate needs to be that much, and they need to increase their average project rate, for example, up to that level. But there's shortage of projects that are coming their way. but there's that particular project that is paying less, and then we do get a lot of questions around that. Is that's below my rate, but it's okay, I can do it, just to keep me busy. So what would you think about this approach?
So I think that if you are desperate for money and you really are looking for survival, then yes, my suggestion is take the work at a lower rate. Absolutely, keep yourself busy. But what that says to me is two things. The first thing it says to me is that you're being reactive to the market, right? What you're doing is you're waiting for the market to come to you and dictate pricing, which is fine. You'll always take on work when it comes to you, and I'm not saying no to it. But ultimately, I'm saying to you is that's generally a sign of someone that's not being aggressive enough in outward sales and outward and direct marketing, because there's always someone that will pay more for your service. That's just the rule. There's a pyramid, right? Lots of cheap at the bottom, a lot of less in the middle, and a few at the top that will pay way more. It is your job to go find those clients, the ones that will pay you way more. And the only way you do that is for you to go out and find them, not for them to come find you. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that in terms of market dynamics, if the client is coming to you and going, I can give you this price, which is too low, and you can take it or leave it because I can get it somewhere else, in terms of there's so much competition, then you haven't differentiated your product set. Because then you're a commodity. And a commodity is not a place you want to be, okay, necessarily. If you were building a bigger business and you wanted to be a volume business, then you could produce products and tools and automation to take on way more clients at a much lower price point with much less touch, human touch. And you can build that business. But most freelancers or consultants don't have that skill set necessarily. So they want to be charging more per hour versus deliberately charging less and putting way more people through their business. But that requires automation. And in the HR space, I don't know if automation is necessarily the right answer.
So on that point, this is how we are helping our consultants, right? Because we strongly believe that you need to get what you're worth, right? From a time perspective and from an effort and an output. So you need to charge what you think is fair for your services, and you shouldn't reduce your rates, because as well, you are impacting the whole market, right?
Sure.
So what we've done with the marketplace is that we are helping consultants to package their solutions and to sell it on the marketplace as actual products. And then we are providing them exactly with what you said, the technology to do that. But their time and their interventions in order to actually implement those solutions, they have to charge it at their charge out rates. But it's interesting discussion, because there's always that bit when somebody worked in a full-time job for a long period of time and then they go freelance, suddenly they don't know how much to charge. And that's a great way to think about it, is think how much money you want to do at the end of the month, multiply that, or how much you are, your time is worth at the end of the month, multiply that by 3. And then basically that should be how much you should do at the end of every month, right?
Sure. And sorry, I don't want to cut you off there, but there's something else I think I want to just mention while we're talking about that. So the first thing is that what tends to happen is, so there's two pieces. The first thing is there's been a movement from consultants doing it for you, right? So you, the client, I'm a consultant, I will do the work for you. And that's the way I've always built, whether it's time or product, I'm doing the work for you.
Yes.
There's been a movement from doing it for you to we doing it together, which means that I'm going to give you a bit of work and you don't realize that you, the client's doing some of the work on my behalf, because I'm giving you templates to fill out online or whatever it is, but I still charge the same for me doing it for you. And then the final phase is you do it yourself. And there's a massive movement to taking the information that I have and figuring out how do I empower the client by giving them the right tools, the right frameworks, with a little bit of consulting on top, as opposed to a lot of consulting, and charge some amount where it's you build it once, you sell it many times, and you just dip yourself into the conversation occasionally, but actually the client's doing it themselves. So that's a big change in the way consultants have been adapting of late, generally across a lot of industries. And the second thing, which I think people tend to forget, is that just because you're an HR consultant, and just because you're selling HR hours, doesn't mean you cannot invest in other businesses. Now, there's a big piece here, right? Like, that's why I think the ratio of 3 is important, because if you're only making your salary, you will only ever make your salary. Right. My suggestion is that with a little bit of the extra cash, go find little businesses that you like, whether they're clients or whether they're your opposition, and buy shares in their business. And by buy, I'm saying money or time or a combination of. So that example of that lady helping the startups.
Yes.
So startups generally not well funded, right? Generally. So she could go and go, as opposed to me charging you X per hour to do the work, I'll charge you 50% my rate. We'll bank the other 50% for a period of a year. And at the end of the year, we'll tally up how much I've spent with you, and I'll take shares in your business. And then step away, all right? And hopefully that business one day grows up, and one day she'll own 5 or 10% of that business. And one day there's money being produced, value for her without her selling time. And I think the mistake a lot of freelancers make is that they go, I do one thing and I sell time, and that's all I'm going to do. And I'm going, there's so much opportunity for you to do other things with your time, especially if you're quiet, right? Like if you're quiet and there's not enough billable, I'm saying you've got the time, go give the time away in exchange for equity in someone's business. And the startup space is a great place to do that. There's risk, absolutely. But if you've got the time to give it away with value, then do free work. You know what I mean?
I love this advice. It's really amazing. That's
good.
Great.
Thank you.
And no, I like that. And I really hope a lot of people actually think like that, because as you said, they just get so hung up on the fact that that's what I do and this is how much I get paid, and then that's it. But there's so many ways in which they can build connections and a network, right? And build trust with those clients, because those startups, once they grow with the right level of support and attention, and once they grow, they only will want to work with that lady, for when they have bigger projects.
Absolutely.
So what does growth look like? And that's an important question, because, when you are in a full-time job, your next level in the career ladder is this.
Yes.
But when you're a freelancer, and from your experience, because it's funny, because your course is called Career 2.0.
Yes.
So what do you see as growth for a freelancer who's really taking this as an entrepreneurial adventure?
So there's probably different layers depending again on each person. So some people are starting freelance businesses and don't realize that they're actually going to be growing large businesses. Like they think they're going to be a freelancer, and then they hire one person, and the next thing you know, they got 10 staff. So option one is to grow a bigger business, a consultancy to some degree, and that's growth. So it depends how ambitious you are. Some people just want to grow their revenue. So I will always be a one-man business. How much money can I make for myself? Number one. Then there are people that want the lifestyle. So how do I surf more or play more golf or do those things? And that's growth. And those are other growths. And then other people are looking for growth from an annuity perspective. So not me selling more hours, but how do I build product? And that can fit across all of them. So I think the growth question is very, very personal. It depends on who you're speaking to. But the reality for me is that whether you're working a couple of hours a day, or whether you're working full day, or whether you want to employ more people, you should be making as much money as possible with the least amount of headache at every point in the business, right? Like that's the goal. Like, how do I make as much money while I'm working? And people have a misconception as to what size of freelance business could get to. So in South Africa, I would say the average freelancer probably makes between 20 and 30,000 rand, which is probably $1,500 to $2,000 a month. Okay. And that's the average. Some guys are making quite a bit more. But then there's a tier at the top. In fact, there's a book, and I can't remember the author now. It's called the $1 Million One-Man Business.
Yeah.
And in the research in the book, just in the States, there were 37,000 one-man businesses doing $1 million revenue a year. Now, like I don't know how much money you make, but $1 million a year for a one-man business is a substantial amount of money. I don't care who you are. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's 37,000 of those businesses, one man registered businesses doing. So I think that for me, there was a big awareness when I saw those stats around, well, the cap is not, a couple of $1,000 or a couple of $1,000 a month. The cap is $70,000, $80,000 a month in order to do your $1 million, right? And that's a real amount of money. It does require that you've got products. It does require that you're outsourcing to other people to support you. You may need to be paying for salespeople and marketing people and support and admin and virtual PAs, whatever the support looks like. But fundamentally, you're still a one-man business. So I think that the blinkers need to be taken off people's eyes in terms of the growth opportunity. Right. And again, you're not going to grow that big if you're only selling hours, because you're capped. You only have X amount of hours, and there will be a price point in terms of what the most you can charge. I don't care how good you are. There will be a cap in terms of hourly rate. So unless you diversify and productize and automate and find other revenue streams, you can't get there. But nothing is stopping you getting there.
Yes. So we had a case where actually a consultant wanted to work on a project that was on the One Circle platform, but he was struggling, thinking that he doesn't have the capacity. And this is where we actually advise that, look, you can take the project because the company and the client actually believe in your profile and they know that you can help. But within that time frame, you can select other consultants that are also on freelance basis that can help you to deliver the project within the time frame required. And it's interesting that not a lot of people actually think like that, but it is an option that you will augment your team virtually as a freelancer with other freelancers that can support you as part of your network.
Well, Emma, okay, so everyone I'm hoping on the call, it comes from the HR space, right?
Yeah.
So everyone will understand what an organogram looks like, an organizational structure, because that's 101 HR.
Yeah.
And yet as an independent, you don't think about what does your organogram look like. So who's your salesperson and who's your admin person and who's your finance person and who's your marketing, like those departments. And what we tend to do is we associate with similar skilled people. So HR people hang out in HR forums and HR communities, as opposed to creative and accounting and legal and the other sort of departments that should exist in your business. So it's important for me that you should almost map out, well, if you want to act like a real business and you're the CEO of this business, what is the supporting roles and responsibilities and skills that you require, which are other freelancers or even other small businesses? That's okay as well. And then go and find them and interview them and onboard them the same way you would in a job, and then go to market and sell and outsource as much of the stuff that you're not the expert in. Find the expert, get a reasonable rate, and outsource it.
Yes, and then you will have more confidence, right, when you are approaching clients, because you have a support structure that is there on demand whenever you need it to help you out.
Exactly.
So
and on a global scale, which is also amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, and now working virtually, you can literally do that and bring in that fresh thinking into your own work. That will differentiate you. I mean, given what we discussed at the beginning. So I know that we've promised everyone a surprise, and I know you wanted to give away a copy of your book.
Yes.
But I can see everybody is quiet here on the chat. I'm going to open it up for questions, but I would like as well to tell everybody that they can actually have access to your course, Career 2.0, right?
That's correct, online.
Yes, and they can. Okay, not on this link. I'm gonna give them the link now.
Perfect. Yeah. So the course is obviously available through your platform.
Yes.
It's about 5 hours of viewing and listening, and then there's probably about 2 hours of homework over the entire course. So it's a solid 6 to 8 hours, depending how fast you get through it and how much detail you want to do for yourself. But it takes you through all the elements of your personal branding. There's a much more detailed go-to-market strategy. It talks to social media. It talks to the finance and the numbers in your business and the stuff that you should be tracking internally for yourself. There's a little bit of motivation, inspiration baked in there as well. And there's a huge amount on the, like I said, the finance piece, rethinking the way you approach your business and the market, and rethinking about the fact that you actually are a business. There's a ton on the sales strategy in terms of, like, you know, from defining that client right through to what do you say on the calls, scripts for emails, just a whole bunch of examples around how to get people's attention and then get in front of them. And then once in front of them, you know, what are you saying? And then even things like if clients say no, how do you continue to market to those people for a long time that they will eventually buy from you? Because I don't believe a no is ever a no. It's always a no for now. Like that's my theory. So you got to remain relevant for a period of time, and sort of how do you do that? And then there's quite a bit on, like I talked about, the marketing and understanding the value of your network, networking. A little bit around how to retain clients once you have them. So how do you remain relevant? How do you grow the clients in terms of spend? How do you make sure they're always happy and you know, giving them moments of magic and surprising and delighting them? So there's like lots of real practical tools that have been applied in other businesses that are you know, factual and work. And then there's a little bit around operating procedures, standard operating procedures, a little bit around, you know, how to do project management in a certain way when you're selling tools, selling hours. And then there's a piece on tools and applications you can use in your business. So free to cheap tools that you could use to help bolster your business. So it's quite a comprehensive piece. The piece that doesn't exist in that is obviously the HR piece. I mean, you're a business of one. There's a little bit around culture, but not much. So it's all the other elements of your business. But
it's more, yeah, exactly. It's because whether you're in HR, you're marketing, but you're a freelancer working on your own, that will provide you with a well-rounded way, basically, on how to run your business. And it's all virtual, right? So, and all it's virtual. Self-paced, it's all virtual.
Yeah, and you do it at your own time, and there's exercises where you can download or use like worksheets. So it's not just theory. It's theory, and then the practical pieces like, okay, I've explained to you how to do this. Now go and do it. Here's the worksheet. Do the work. So when you leave, you've got a real practical pieces that you can literally apply in your business like tomorrow.
That's amazing. So if I recall correctly, we are offering this course at 1,250 Rand.
That's correct.
Yeah, which is in dollar terms, I think this is like $60 or $70. And it's 1,500 with the book, but for everybody who is attending today's discussion, they can get the course and at that basic price, and we will be sending them the book, right?
That's correct. Yeah, 100%.
Perfect. And they can also choose to have the course. They'll get the book, but they can also get 1 hour of coaching with you. And that's at the value of 3,500 Rand.
Yes. So the way that works is that once you've done the course and you've worked out sort of the academics of your own business, there's going to be questions around what relevant to you and who you are and the place you're playing in and the right tools potentially. So there's going to be questions around am I doing this right? I haven't thought about this, or I'm thinking about this. What do you think? So the way I would suggest is that if you decide to buy the full package, which includes the coaching, is that before the coaching session, I would send you an agenda, a structure, so that you know what how to prepare yourself for the meeting to get the most value out of it. Send me your agenda, so I know what I'm walking into, and then I would help you at a very personal level solve whatever problems you're dealing with in your business, and give you as much practical advice as possible.
Actually, in my that's one of, and that's the reason why we're actually chatting. That's one of the few courses that are completely virtual, and it's specifically targeting freelance businesses, where you want to run your business, your freelance as a business, and do everything from A to Z to set you up for success. So yeah, it's a great gift for the end of year to start on the right foot for next year.
100%.
So I'm not sure if you guys have any questions. We would love to hear from you. If you still have any questions, we still have 10 minutes. And any questions? Okay, the first question, you'll get a free copy of the book. How about that? Okay, let's see.
Let's see who comes up. And Emma, I think that you know, I think that the value here is that a lot of the thinking in the book and on the course has come out of me helping freelancers for the last 8 years and helping them grow their businesses. And a lot of the businesses that I started with when they were freelancers have developed into quite large agencies, consultancies, and firms.
Yes.
Because the initial thing is, I've got a belief that as long as you're making money and having fun, you don't want to put a cap on growth. So what tends to happen is that people go like, no, I just want to be a freelancer because I can control my environment, I control myself. And then I want to remove the fact that they could grow a bigger business and employ people and still have fun and make more money. So often that is something that I try and help people understand, is that you don't have to be limited to be a one-man business forever.
Yeah, that's true. Hey,
okay,
we got Quentin.
Okay, Quentin, I've got a very simple solution, right? So maybe you are athletic in some nature. So I'll give you examples that I'm a runner. So I run fairly mid to long distance, right? And I found that if I commit to run with somebody, a running buddy, I'll get out of bed in the morning at 5 o'clock and run. Where if I don't, then I might decide to snooze. And the same is true if you've got a gym, you know, if you have an instructor or someone that you know is waiting for you there, you will attend and you will rock up, you will present yourself. So in business, the thinking is the same, is that you need some kind of an accountability buddy. And it can be someone that's in a similar business to you or a different business to you, but someone that's in business. And the reason why I think it's important is that what I would suggest is using, I don't know whether you know, there is an agile methodology called Scrum, SCRUM. And it's not important if you don't know Scrum, but that's okay. But the Scrum stand up every single day is when you stand up and go, you know, what did I achieve yesterday? What am I going to achieve today? And what are the roadblocks? What are the things that are limiting me achieving what I'm going to do today? And by achieving, not what am I going to do, but what is the results of what I'm going to do? So that's the question. So what did I achieve yesterday? What am I going to achieve today? And what are my roadblocks? And my suggestion, Quentin, is find somebody that at 8 o'clock every morning, the two of you do a WhatsApp call or even a WhatsApp or a Zoom call or something, and just check in and go, right, I said I would do this yesterday. I've done it. And this is why it's worked. And today I'm going to do this. And then have the same person repeat theirs to you, that you can hold each other accountable on a daily basis. And at least you know, and it's not small stuff. It's not, well, I'm going to email this person or like, that's not what I'm talking about. It's like, I'm going to land a client today and I'm going to do that by sending 20 emails. It's like the results. So stuff that's meaningful to the business. So all I would suggest is find yourself a Scrum buddy. And if you can find more than one, even better, because the more people in the group, the more accountable you'll be to them. And do a daily stand-up with somebody outside. And that could hopefully keep you a little bit motivated on a daily basis. Alternatively, you can go and find yourself a proper mentor or a business coach or someone that you're paying for advice, and they can actually set targets for you, and then you've got to be accountable to them because you're paying them. So those are two ways I would recommend. Jackie's made a comment. I found that I have to calculate for 8 months a bill work per annual. So the time seems longer. So Jackie, like on average, and this is through the research that I did in building the book, was the average freelancer bills about 10 months a year. So if you're only billing 8 months, you're not having enough conversations, you're not doing enough sales and marketing to fill those gaps in between. And again, those dead months, try and figure out what else you can do with that time, and approach smaller businesses or people and go, I will help you with the work because I've got the time. Give me a trade exchange. So do my marketing for me. I'll do your HR for you. Or give me equity. I'll do your HR for you. So don't waste the time. Don't sit back and wait. Be smart with the billable hours that you've got, and use them in a smart way. So hopefully that answers your question.
I like that. Quentin as well likes that. So do you have a buddy that you chat to every day?
So I don't speak to everyone every day. I don't really have a problem with motivation. That isn't really my biggest concern. I say that like if I have a quiet, I don't always try to push myself. But I generally find that if I don't have work, I find work for myself always. I always find myself looking for things to do. And almost like, I mean, the freelance rabbit hole that I went down was me trying to fill time and figuring out how to add value and find the gap. So I always manage to keep myself occupied. And my motivation is getting the pat on the back. It's the recognition from client. So as long as I'm getting client recognition, going, Spilly, thanks for that, I appreciate it, I will rock up and find more work and keep myself occupied. So that's not really a problem.
Yeah, that's the secret, right? Yes.
Yeah, find what motivates you. And if
exactly.
I think that's, I mean, saying that to HR people, I'm sure they understand the value of values and how they drive, what your intent. And then make sure that you are scratching those itches on a daily basis, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's how you get that self-satisfaction, right?
Exactly.
It gives you that drive to show up every day. And exactly. Love that. Thank you. Thanks a lot. So I think I think both Jackie and Quentin, we can send them a free copy of the book. Perfect. If that's okay with you. Excellent. Great. And then so they can have access to the course as well. Again, I'm gonna put the link here, and they can access the course. I think Sharon has a comment.
With this pandemic, clients have frozen, budget will revise next year. I agree with that, right? I do believe in these times, marketing is essential for my clients, and that's where services come in. How does one work around this one? So look, I do think, Sharon, that it has been and I'm not using any of the words, everyone, but it's been a unique kind of year, rather than a strange or anything. I mean, some people have done incredibly well because of the year and the way it's rolled out. So I do think that being patient with yourself and not punishing yourself for not closing a ton of deals, especially in the last couple of weeks leading up to December, where everyone is fatigued and tired and no one's got interest. Like I think that is the overriding sort of narrative in the market, is people are tired and they don't want to experiment or try new things now. But what I would be doing in the meantime is pushing people for January meetings. So I would start the conversation with, hey, Sharon, I offer business coaching. I know that you're finished. I know you're tired. You don't want to have this conversation. So I know that in January you'll be revitalized and hopefully rejuvenated. Can we book a conversation for sales in the middle of January? So I would try to push the conversation to next year and try and line up as many sales meetings as you can for next year, and just try and coast into Christmas this year. I think don't try too many smart things in the next couple of weeks. So I don't think you I think that keep the always on marketing going, keep pushing yourself, be seen, be proactive, and then try and start next year with a clear go-to-market strategy, and try for yourself, get as many sales meetings as you can for January, even February. People will easily commit to February now. So give yourself some space and push forward. Yeah.
And if they cover all of those basics that we've discussed in the next few weeks, and then they get themselves ready basically for the new year. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Spilly. We really appreciate you being with us today.
Thanks for your time, Emma.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And thanks a lot, everyone, for attending. And I guess everybody will get a link as well on the replay of the video. Even for those who didn't attend today, they will get a link for the replay of the video. Perfect. Thanks, Billy.
Good.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Everybody. Good evening, everyone. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.